What on earth is that? What am I even watching? Look at all those open threes. Look at how slow they are when getting back on transition. 4 or 5 guys back, yet they still give up an open layup. Coming into the 2021 season, there were a lot of eyes on the Celtics. They were deemed as one of the top-tier teams, not just in the East, but in the entire NBA, a championship contender. Even though they're a young squad, the expectations were sky-high, but this isn't how it's supposed to go. Now, about halfway through the season, they're barely as good as the Knicks. What's going on with the Boston Celtics? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's take a detailed look at the Celtics, who seem like they severely dropped off compared to previous seasons, and everything across the board has been worse than before. Why are they having these issues, and is there anything they can do to fix them? First, before we dive into the details, let me give you guys some numbers. In my opinion, the two most important numbers to look at when evaluating a team is offensive and defensive rating. In the previous year, the Celtics were top 4 in both categories. Going back further, you can see how their offense has been kinda inconsistent, depending on their personnel, but generally speaking, defense has always been their strong suit. That's not the case right now. Their defensive prowess fell off a cliff. It absolutely plummeted. They're now in the bottom half of the league defensively, which, if you've been watching them, you shouldn't be surprised. Those plays I showed earlier, there's much more of them, many times a game, even though in previous years, it was rare to see them be so lackadaisical. It seems like so many opposing players are just going off against the Celtics. The trio of Daniel Theis, Tristan Thompson, and Robert Williams is quite underwhelming. Theis is their best defender in the paint, but both Thompson and Williams are undersized and getting scored on way too much. They're in the wrong place too many times. A lot of times, Brad Stevens puts both Theis and Thompson on the floor together, and that's always been a disaster. The stats show that they've got an average defensive rating of 114.7 when they play together. Out of all of their two-man duos with significant minutes, this pair is one of the worst defensively. To make matters worse, their perimeter players are getting beat off the dribble way too quickly. And yes, I'm pointing at Tatum and Brown. Perhaps the increased offensive load is tiring them out, and they don't have the legs to keep up the same energy on defense anymore. John Corrales from the Locked On Celtics podcast stated, "When the penetration is coming so often in the paint, when guys are getting beat so often on the perimeter that those paint touches are coming fast and furious, it doesn't matter who your big is." The Celtics need more switchable wing help. Part of how you prevent this dribble penetration is by switching and by being able to switch everything multiple times. Having versatile wing players who can switch has been their bread and butter in recent years, but they're getting blown by way too often nowadays. The lack of effort on defense can be seen through their hustle stats. In recent years, the Celtics were near the top when it came to deflections and contesting shots, especially contesting threes. That was their strong suit on defense, making it hard for opposing guards to get space by suffocating the perimeter with long arms. Previously, they held opponents to just 34% shooting from 3, the third lowest mark in the league, and 50.8% from 2, the 7th lowest mark in the league. Now, they're around the middle of the pack in both categories. Opponents are now hitting 36.1% of their threes against the Celtics and 54.2% of their twos, a large part of it due to opposing guards having a much easier time penetrating. Of course, injuries have played a significant role as well. One of their best defenders, Marcus Smart, has missed a ton of games. Kemba Walker had a stem cell treatment in his knee, and it doesn't seem like he's fully recovered yet. His offense isn't quite up to snuff, as the shooting struggles are evident. Tatum contracted COVID early in the season and also missed a few weeks of practice. Even recently, he's mentioned how he's still feeling the lingering effects of it, as he said, "I have experienced some games where I don't want to say I was struggling to breathe, but you get fatigued a lot quicker than normal. Just running up and down the court a few times, it's easier to get out of breath or tired a lot faster. I've noticed that since I've had COVID. This was visible on the court as well, as his consistency has been quite shaky, and defensively, he's not as energetic and fluid as he once was. My opinion is that these defensive and offensive problems correlate with the loss of Gordon Hayward. Now, I don't think Hayward is anything special on defense. He's an average defender. But the fact that when he was on the team, he could give a breather to Tatum and Brown to let them rest a little bit on offense so they can have their legs on defense. If you look at how good the Celtics were in the 2019-20 season, a lot of success had to do with Hayward. On offense, he was a legit threat to score. He provided such a great relief for Tatum and Brown. All three of them were in the starting lineup, so they had three versatile wing players who can do literally everything. Whenever Tatum and Brown needed a break, Hayward took over the offense. At times, he was their go-to playmaker, being third on the team in assists, behind only Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart. The spacing and scoring threat he posed was absolutely the perfect fit for them. However, if you look at their offense this season and how they're scoring, it looks really ugly. You see so many times with Tatum just forcing up shots, getting suffocated in the paint whenever he drives. The team is having a hard time getting good looks. Ball movement was never a strong suit for this roster, but it's even worse now. There's too much ball stoppage, mostly because players just don't know how to get an open look. That's what happens when you move from a smaller offense built around three versatile wings versus an offense now with two big men clogging the paint. You saw the numbers earlier, how the frontcourt duo of Tice and Thompson is not working out. The Celtics are built, or they were built to play small ball. That was their jam, and they were 2 games away from the NBA Finals playing like that. When they went from a successful small ball offense to this bigger lineup, that's when the struggles started. Now, Danny Ainge is a great GM, one of the best we've ever seen, but the acquisition of Tristan Thompson was a mistake. I mean, he's not even a bad player, and his contract is reasonable. It's just, he doesn't fit with the rest of the squad. Ainge even admitted to his failures, and said this roster is not capable of winning the championship, and he might have to make some personnel changes. As always, whenever a team with high expectations is struggling like this, everyone turns to the coach. Stevens has gotten his fair share of criticism for playing some awkward lineups throughout the season, but we all know he's a very smart guy and the struggles are mostly out of his control. He doesn't have much to work with. We've heard some loud voices calling him out, like Stephen A. Smith, who claim that Stevens has always been protected from criticism among NBA circles despite the Celtics struggling. I don't think it's valid because with all the injuries and adjustments he has to make, it's gonna take a while for everyone to get used to it. The players have been fully supporting him though, and the 6-year contract he signed over the summer will be certainly worth it. Anyway, that's all folks. Even putting injuries aside, this Celtics squad has some serious problems, and like Danny Ainge said, they're currently not a championship squad. It's clear they got worse compared to previous years, and some major changes need to happen if they're gonna make a real playoff push. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Celtics. Do you think they can turn it around? Do you foresee them making a deep playoff run this year? From what I can see, I'm not too sure. Even if everyone's healthy, this team is a lot different than before. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.